Welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast, the show that invites you to take a seat around the community fire and listen to stories that inspire. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson, author, coach, and founder of Athena Wellness, a company that's dedicated to supporting you as you create your next chapter, turning life transitions into transformation. Hello and welcome, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. What does it mean to truly be nourished? In today's episode, we'll look at the plate and beyond it to explore the interconnected relationship of food to the body, mind, and spirit. We'll cover the true meaning of holistic nourishment, lessons from ancestral food practices, navigating the modern food landscape, practical strategies for nourishing the body, mind, and spirit, a personal story about food, mindfulness, and deepening relationships, and tips for integrating nourishment into daily life. If you've been looking for ways to nourish your well-being, this episode is for you. What does it mean to be truly nourished? Is it simply the absence of hunger? Or is there something more, a deeper sense of well-being that comes from nurturing not just our body, but our mind and spirit as well? I'm Kathy Robinson, and I used to think that nourishment was just about the food on my plate. I tracked calories and I obsessed over macros, but I felt like something was missing. And it wasn't until I started looking beyond the plate, exploring the deeper connection between food, body, mind, and spirit, that I finally understood what it truly meant to nourish my whole self. In this fourth installment of the Strong and Vital series, we'll explore the essential topic of nutrition, not just as a means of fueling our bodies, but as a crucial component of nourishing the whole self. We'll discuss practical strategies for making conscious food choices and understanding the incredible impact that what we eat has on our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. From ancestral wisdom to present-day challenges, we'll navigate the landscape of food and nourishment together, uncovering how to cultivate and support a vibrant and balanced life. And later, I'll share a personal story that illustrates the profound way that food can connect and deepen our relationships. Our journey to optimal nutrition begins by acknowledging the wisdom of those who came before us. My own family history with parents, a grandmother, and great-grandmother who lived long, vibrant lives instilled in me a deep appreciation for the power of simple, whole foods. My great-grandmother immigrated from Italy in 1903 through Ellis Island. She had a garden in her Brooklyn backyard, preserved her food seasonally, and prepared hearty, inexpensive meals from scratch. Her family's diet was born of necessity rather than health trends, but it was rich in vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats. And they walked everywhere, fostering an active lifestyle that was integrated into their daily routines. These ancestral lessons highlight key principles that remain relevant for me today. And here are 6 principles for you to consider. 1. Embrace whole foods. Prioritize unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods in their natural state. If my great-grandmother would recognize the food, it's a safe bet for you. 2. Eat seasonally. Embrace the rhythm of nature by consuming foods that are in season locally. The more you practice this, the more you'll feel pulled to certain foods during the year. That's your body's way of intuitively letting you know what it needs. 3. Share meals. Community meals with loved ones foster connection and enjoyment. Set meal times were the norm growing up and can be something that's a bit of a challenge in our ever busy lives today. 4. Practice mindful eating. Savor your meals, eat slowly, and appreciate the nourishment they provide. Growing up, I remember dinner in particular as a quiet time to catch up on the day's events. 5. Cultivate gratitude. Express thankfulness for the food that you have, cultivating a sense of abundance. I also remember how my grandmother would start each meal by saying grace, including gratitude for the food, having lived through the Great Depression. And 6, move naturally. Integrate movement into your daily life. The reason my elders lived well into their 80s, 90s, and even 100s is because of their daily activity. None of them stepped into a gym. It was the simple act of living in the 20th century that kept them active. Certainly, we wouldn't want to go back to a time of such different challenges, but we can learn from their sustainable and nourishing practices. Take a moment to reflect on your own family's food traditions. What lessons are applicable to your own life? If none come to mind, try incorporating one of the ancestral principles that I mentioned into your daily routine this week. While our ancestors' practices offer valuable guidance, today's food environment is vastly different and presents its own unique challenges. Convenience and affordability have often come at the expense of nutritional value. Processed foods laden with sodium, saturated fat, refined grains, and added sugars have become pervasive. This shift has contributed to a rise in diet-related health issues. Quite simply, our food is making us unwell. The challenge lies in navigating this complex landscape and making informed choices that support our well-being. It requires a conscious effort to prioritize whole foods, limit processed options, and be mindful of the ingredients we consume. Making lasting changes to our eating habits can feel daunting. It doesn't have to be. An effective strategy to consider incorporating into your daily life is the reflect, replace, and reinforce method. This powerful 3-step approach, recommended by the CDC, provides a structured framework for making lasting changes to your eating habits. It's not just what you eat, but why and how. Here are the steps. 1. Reflect. The first step is self-awareness. Keep a food diary just for a few days to track what you eat, when you eat it, how you feel before and after. Identify any unhealthy habits, patterns, and the triggers that prompt them. Are you eating out of boredom, stress, or simply habit? Understanding your triggers is crucial for making conscious choices. 2. Replace. Once you've identified areas for improvement, start replacing unhealthy choices with healthier ones. Swap sugary drinks for water or herbal tea. Replace processed snacks with fruit, vegetables, or a handful of nuts. Small, consistent substitutions can make a big difference over time. And 3, reinforce. Change takes time and effort. Be patient and compassionate with yourself throughout the process. Setbacks are normal. If you slip up, don't get discouraged. Simply acknowledge it, learn from it, and get back on track. Focus on consistency and how you feel rather than perfection. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small, to reinforce positive changes. Once you have the food basics down, you'll want a simple way to stay accountable. The way I do it is by mentally reviewing a few questions, like a decision tree. It helps me make the best food choices throughout my day. I created this approach because I needed something I could apply on the go, and I wanted to incorporate the wisdom from those who have dedicated their lives to eating well for optimal performance. Folks like Brendan Brazier. Brendan is a former endurance athlete and author. His approach to optimizing health through food is to minimize nutritional stress, which means to help the body perform its cellular regeneration functions by reducing the effort needed to digest and process food. And you do this quite simply with a whole foods based diet. With this as a backdrop, here's my two-part thought process when deciding what to eat and ensuring that I get high net gain nutrition, including plenty of alkaline, non-inflammatory food. 1. Is it an unprocessed whole food? I make sure to get a seasonal array of fresh, colorful fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. I eat as many meals as possible at home and minimally prepare the food to reduce salt, oil, and sugar. 2. How much food do I really need and when? For me, small amounts of high quality food work best. I also try to eat between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. to give myself plenty of time to digest before bed and to work out in a fasted state. Here are 5 more questions that keep me on track. 1. Can a piece of fruit satisfy a sweet craving? Most of the time, the answer is yes. 2. What can I drink in place of alcohol? I mostly limit my intake to social situations with a 1 or 2 drink max. 3. When will I schedule my weekly prep time? Planning and prepping my meals ahead of time helps me stay on track because I always have healthy ingredients and snacks at the ready. 4. Is it time to fast? A few times a year, I do a 5-day fast mimicking program called Prolon. I've done a whole episode on that, so I'll just leave it at that and add some info in the show notes. 5. How can I have some fun along the way? Along with exploring the culinary spectrum and trying new recipes, I love to search out wild, foraged foods. These nutrient-rich plants, which our ancestors ate, add variety, flavor, and connection to nature. It's also a great excuse to get out on the trails or support a local forager. Now let's look beyond the plate. True nourishment encompasses the well-being of your mind and spirit as well. Just as food fuels our bodies, other practices nourish our inner selves, contributing to a sense of wholeness and balance. Nourishing the whole self requires attention to the interconnectedness of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's about cultivating inner resilience, fostering positive connections, and finding meaning and purpose in our lives. I'll touch on a few here, but we'll go deeper on these themes in upcoming episodes. Nourishing your mind. Our mental well-being is just as crucial as our physical health. A nourished mind is one that's engaged, resilient, and capable of navigating life's challenges with clarity and focus. Here are some ways to nourish your mind. Stress management. Chronic stress can take a toll on both our mental and physical health. Finding healthy ways to manage stress is essential. This could include practices like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, yoga, spending time in nature, or engaging in a hobby you love. It might also mean setting healthy boundaries and learning to say no to things that overwhelm you. Rest and sleep are also important to manage stress. Next is cognitive stimulation. A curious and active mind is a healthy one. Keep your mind sharp and engaged through lifelong learning. You can read books, listen to podcasts, learn a new language, or pursue a new hobby or creative project. Then there's emotional regulation. Our emotions play a powerful role in our overall well-being. Developing emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your emotions effectively, is the key to mental wellness. This might involve journaling, seeking therapy or counseling, practicing self-compassion, or developing healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with difficult emotions. Now let's talk about nourishing your spirit. Nourishing the spirit is all about connecting with something larger than yourself, finding meaning and purpose in life, and cultivating a sense of inner peace. It's about nurturing your inner self and finding what truly resonates with your soul. Here are some ways to nourish your spirit. Contemplation. Contemplative practices can help you quiet the mind, connect with your inner wisdom, and cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness. Even a few minutes of daily reflection can make a difference in your overall well-being. Gratitude and appreciation. Cultivating gratitude for the good things in your life, both big and small, can shift your perspective and enhance your sense of happiness and contentment. Keep an ongoing list of what's going right. Express your appreciation to others, or simply take time each day to reflect on what and who you're thankful for. Connection with nature. Spending time in nature has a restorative effect on the mind and spirit. Whether it's a walk in the park, a hike in the woods, or simply sitting in your garden, connecting with the natural world can bring a sense of peace and tranquility. Meaning and purpose. Exploring your values, passions, and what truly gives your life meaning can be a powerful way to nourish your spirit. This might involve volunteering, pursuing a creative endeavor, or simply taking time for self-reflection. Community and connection. Nurturing meaningful connections with others can provide a sense of belonging and support. Spend time with loved ones and connect with your community. Any activity that brings you closer to others will be effective. Speaking of social connection, here's the story I mentioned that illustrates the profound way food can connect and deepen our relationships. I think it'll bring this conversation full circle. And it's about a time I experienced a spontaneous connecting moment of mindfulness in an unexpected place. It was January 2014, and I attended a home-cooked dinner hosted by my new boss at the time, who auctioned off the seats around his dining room table for charity. When I walked into his Manhattan duplex, I knew a few people by name, but most by sight or not at all. We were basically a group of loosely acquainted colleagues. The dinner was wonderful, and when it came time for dessert, one of the guests asked the host to open a special bottle of wine that he brought. It was a dessert wine that was a 1927 vintage, an 87-year-old wine back in 2014. I was so struck by the generosity of this individual to share such a special bottle of wine with work acquaintances. And I was really curious, what does an 87-year-old wine taste like? As the bottle was ceremoniously opened and the contents allowed to breathe after decades of being in a bottle, I kept trying to picture what was happening when those grapes were growing in the south of France. My father would have been 5 years old, and my mom wouldn't be born for another year. As a nation, we were between world wars. 10 years past the 1918 flu pandemic, and the Roaring '20s were coming to an end, with the Great Depression on the horizon, unbeknownst to all. And what was the journey that took that bottle from Europe to America to our table 9 decades later? That's what I was thinking of when I raised the glass to observe its amber color before taking in its aroma of walnuts and caramel. We all sipped at the same time, holding that first small mouthful for a bit, and then sharing what we tasted. Vanilla bean, brown sugar, ginger were a few responses. As we settled into enjoying our dessert and wine, I asked the table of professional colleagues this question. If money were no object and you had the full support of your family, what work would you choose to do? And so began a long exchange where everyone shared their dreams, not your typical corporate conversation. There were those who wanted to farm, to make wine, to lead travel excursions, to teach, to heal. Me? I said I wanted to be an author, which at the time was a dream. I share the story because when we think of being mindful, it can feel elusive. But this is a reminder that we can invite mindful moments to our everyday gatherings, whether personal or professional. In my experience, I haven't had anyone turn down or turn away from an invitation to authentically connect. That group of colleagues didn't set out to have a mindful meal. To the contrary, it had all the components of what could have been a polite and antiseptic evening. But with a little prompting, in this case, sharing a bottle of wine and nudging the conversation with a thoughtful question, everyone spontaneously rose to the occasion. We as a group dropped into the present moment. We focused on our senses and we shared what we were experiencing, along with our dreams. In doing so, we shared a moment as rare as that special bottle of wine, never to be experienced again, but fully enjoyed by all. And recalling that connection still brings me great joy to this day. As we conclude, remember that true nourishment is a holistic journey that reaches far beyond the plate. It's a continuous exploration of self-discovery and growth that's about embracing the interconnectedness of our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. To begin, reflect on your current habits and identify areas of positive change. Embrace the wisdom of generations past while navigating the modern food landscape with conscious choices. And then implement practical strategies like reflect, replace, and reinforce. But don't stop there. Find enjoyable ways to nurture your mind and connect with your spirit. Find unexpected moments, like sharing a meal and a bottle of wine, to invite mindfulness, authentic connection, and new experiences. These moments, like nourishing our whole selves, are not about perfection, but about presence. By embracing this holistic approach, nourishing your body, mind, and spirit, you're feeding your vitality so you can truly thrive in midlife and beyond. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many ways you can spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me. Until our paths cross again, be kind to yourself and show your warrior spirit some love. If you know anyone who could benefit from today's episode, please pass it on. And many thanks for supporting the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It means a lot and it helps others find their way to our circle. If you'd like to access the show notes, have a question you'd like addressed on a future episode, or would like a transcript of this episode, visit www.athenawellness.com/podcast. Until next time, be well.